This is Steve Jewin from Glove Up or Shut Up, and before you begin listening to our interview, I want to thank Eric Prindle for his courage and his honesty discussing post-traumatic stress disorder. If you want to know more, visit ptsd.va.gov and support the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund and other worthy charitable causes related to military veterans. You can follow Eric on Twitter at EricPrindleMMA.
Oh, thank you. No worries about that. Stuff happens sometimes.
Yes, indeed. It's what we were just discussing before we had you on the air, is computers and internet radio and doing shows can be difficult at times, but certainly not as difficult as being a soldier in combat or being in combat inside of a cage. So,
by far being a soldier and always, doing the right decision and having to live with the things that you do. And it's definitely way harder for me doing MMA. For one, I'm learning. Also, pretty much getting my aggressions out and all the energy, so to speak. So it's definitely, for me, doing MMA is like therapy. Being a soldier that was, not only a job, it was more than that. It was like that's what I was, and I loved every minute of it, but honestly, I feel like I'm leaving my brothers over that are back over in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever they're at. I feel like I should still be there.
That's understandable, and of course, there's never any shortage of things going on in the combat theater in the Middle East and overseas, so it can be hard when you've been with those guys for a long time to leave them behind and go back home and try to live a quote, regular life when you know that it's anything but for the men and women in uniform that are left behind, so I certainly understand that.
It almost feels kind of like survivor's guilt, if you will. It doesn't feel that good, especially the guys, that are coming in the Army now. I'm not sure, but I think they're not as proficient in their job as when I went in. And we definitely trained all the time, pretty much 24/7. We were either training or we were, actually doing a mission. And I've heard the Army's changed a lot, so I hope they're doing the best they can, and everybody stays safe. That's in the armed services.
Absolutely. We say nothing but all the best to all the men and women who serve our country and serve in the armed forces. And as I understand it, while you were there, you also managed to get in some competition in fighting. I believe you had a 4-time Armed Forces Championship record while you were over there serving.
Yeah, I won All-Army 5 years in a row. My first time winning All-Army, I shattered my left thumb in the first round and kept fighting. Won the fight. That's why I didn't go to Armed Forces my first year. The guy that I beat one-handed, he won it. He knocked out the Marine, I think, and then beat the Navy guy, and so at least the Army team, I think, always won the team trophy so far, I believe. I know while I was there, we always won the team trophy, which was a big deal. Ooh, excuse me. But I miss being a soldier. I miss being in the Army. I was in WCAP, which is a world-class athletic program, and that was pretty awesome. Being a soldier and then going into sports, that was pretty phenomenal.
Well, actually, that was going to be my next question, because you transitioned very successfully from your time in Army combat and being all-Army and winning the Army championship to your role in Bellator, where you came in and immediately made waves and worked your way up to the heavyweight championship. So talk to us a little about that transition from being an Armed Forces champion to a Bellator champion.
It was pretty awesome. When I was in WCAP, some of the guys that were in WCAP. Matt Hughes actually trained there. Bobby Lashley, he was actually in WCAP. He was a wrestler. There's been a lot of guys that, did a lot of good stuff that was in WCAP, but it was phenomenal. But I think that me just being in the Army definitely helped train for being in MMA, just with, the discipline and everything that goes with it. Always just trying to drive on and keep moving forward was basically the best thing that I've learned in the Army. Like, not necessarily it's always the smartest thing. Like my last fight, I had a pretty bad broken hand when I went into the fight, and, it obviously showed in the fight. I was hoping that I would have a better outcome than I did, but, it is what it is, and I need to be more proficient in blocking the back of my head and stopping the takedowns.
Right.
We'll start winning some more fights.
Right, and you're talking about the fight with James the Colossus Thompson, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a very, very exciting fight, but a very short fight. And you mentioned shots to the back of the head. Well, technically you're not supposed to have to be able to block those, because the referee is supposed to disallow those shots directly to the back of your head. So do you feel that Thompson might have gotten in a few shots that he shouldn't have?
While you're in the fight, when I fought Ron Sparks, I hit him with the hook, and I honestly didn't. I thought he was trying to go for like a single leg. That's what it felt like. I didn't know I really hit him that hard as I did. So when he hit the ground, I was trying to go down, not necessarily to defend it, but I see him dropping down, so I was throwing more punches. As soon as kind of my brain realized that he was knocked out, the ref, jumped on me, and I actually felt really bad for hitting him again after he was already out. But that's basically what I was saying. When you're in the fight, you're kind of going on autopilot, at least for me, so it takes a second for your brain to realize what's going on and what you're doing. Also, I think the ref, said, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, was saying, don't hit the back of the head or something like that. So maybe James Thompson was thinking he was close to it, or that he wasn't hitting it, because if he did, the ref would have stopped it and, warned him or something. So I think James is a good guy. I would definitely like to fight him again. I know for a fact it would be a different outcome, but, I love just fighting and everything that goes with it. And it definitely, if anybody has PTSD and has, bad symptoms of it, they should get into MMA, because it's definitely saved my life.
Well, that's a good transition point. I want to go ahead and say that you're right. In a fight, anything can happen, and you're right. You don't always have control over where the strikes land when both guys are moving. I think you mentioned that in both the James fight and the Ron fight. Sometimes strikes go errant, not because you're not in control, but because guys are moving and they're a constant target. So it's not always going to turn out the way you plan when you're just going in there trying to survive and fight the fight. But you did mention PTSD, and we talked to your manager, Mac, about that as well, and he said that you've got some great information for anybody out there who is suffering, who's come back and had issues since they came back from combat, and how MMA can change their lives. So why don't you go ahead and expound upon that?
Yeah, basically, when I got out of the Army, I was kind of like a zombie for a while. I got hurt, and having, for one, getting out of the Army on a medical, I kind of felt like I was leaving my brothers, so to speak. And also, I couldn't work. my body was hurting severely. So I was kind of in a bad place in life. I had my first son, and it was a rough couple of years. I kind of healed up, went to a lot of doctors, got to where I could walk around and do stuff, as far as going to the gym and lifting weights a little bit. I was at a friend's house, and we were watching one of the UFC fights, and he actually owned a gym that was called Takedown Academy, and basically he bet me that I couldn't knock out one of their heavyweights, and I don't think he knew that I boxed a lot, but anyways, I went there, did some of the workout, went and sparred, and just loved it ever since. I've noticed when I work out really hard, I don't have really any of the symptoms that I do when I don't work out for a while. So it's definitely, cause and effect. If you work out really hard, especially and you keep learning, you grow as a person, you help your soul because you're allowing yourself to get out those aggressions, not only the aggressions you feel from, not having enough money, paying all the bills, whatever, the house is dirty, whatever it is, but also the ones that you can't see, the stuff that, whatever, you had to blow up people or just whatever's really bothering you, but unconsciously it bothers you more than you think. At least it did me.
I understand completely. So it seems to me that
I've noticed.
Go ahead.
I've just noticed it's helped tremendously. It's like night or day. Honestly, I think it saved my life because I was one of those guys. I would never start trouble, but I would definitely finish it. Say if someone cut me off, I'd chase them down and yell at them, even though it wasn't the smart thing. But I think it was part of being almost a adrenaline junkie from having to deal with all the stuff that I did in combat. Coming back here, doing the, family life. I don't want to say it's boring. It's awesome. I love having kids, but at the same time, you miss a lot of that. So I think it allows you to get the adrenaline part, going to fight in front of, on Spike TV or let alone just fight in front of, having another in front of you that's trained that could, do damage. It definitely gets your adrenaline up, and I think it helps you keep your I'm trying to search for the word, but it keeps your pyramid kind of right. I don't know how to explain it, but it definitely helped me out a lot.
I think I understand. It takes the place of the rush that you would get from being in a combat situation where your life is on the line, the lives of the people you're serving with are on the line. It provides that transition where you can still feel that excitement. And as you said yourself, I won't try to rephrase it. I'll use your own words. It channels that aggression, and you're able to put it in a positive way and use it as an MMA fighter instead of having it go wasted or be used in a way that's unproductive.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. It channels your aggression. It's awesome. It also, for me, I'll give you, for instance, something that's happened traumatic, in your life. It has to be pretty traumatic, at least for me, in order this symptom to happen. Like, you almost daydream as you're standing in your peripheral vision. You almost daydream an actual event that happened in the past. Whatever, your friend gets blown up, someone gets shot, that replays in your head over and over, and you can't really get away from it. You can't, there's drugs that the VA gives you, or you go to naturopathic, they give their own kind of drugs. The only thing that really helps me is training all the time. You know, it helps everything. And the biggest part of it, I think it helps your soul kind of release the feeling that you have for having to deal with that. And that's why I say it saved my life, because if I kept feeling the things I did before, I don't think I could still be, you know, I'd be pushing daisies right now.
Well, we're glad you're not, and we're glad that mixed martial arts has been that channel for you to be able to deal with these issues and to, you know, channel the feelings that you have. And for other soldiers who are experiencing this and thinking about your words and taking your advice, what kind of training do you recommend? Do you recommend they do wrestling, jiu-jitsu, cardio, boxing, or all around? Where should they start?
All of it. You know, for me, I want to say one thing real quick. You know, people have PTSD from you know, from being beat up as a kid or their family beating them up. For the UFC Bellator, he has some PTSD issues from growing up. His family, you know, didn't treat him right the way they should have, and it was pretty dramatic. I'm not going to say his name, but he basically, we were talking about it one day, and he has a lot of the same symptoms, but it's from, his parents beating him. So it doesn't really matter if you have it from being in war or if you have it from, you know, a plane crash or your family beating you as a kid. The main thing is you get in there and you find something that you really love, that you could put your heart and soul in to get that aggression out and channel the aggression. So I would basically say whatever you really like, wrestling, you know, or you like boxing, whatever you can, start with that sport. And if you love it, you know, get into everything. Get into MMA, taekwondo, boxing, whatever you can do, just do it. And they will, hopefully, the guys that have it bad that are on drugs, they can get off the drugs as long as they're feeling better and the doctors allow them to get off drugs.
I agree. It's a good plan for anybody, for whatever reason they have PTSD, is find that thing they love and do that and focus on that, and then branch out from those areas and try to do things without the drugs and try to get life on track and do it the best you can. But before we let you go tonight, Eric, I want to go back a little to your own career in MMA and talk about some of the things you've achieved, because not only as a success in Bellator, but in general, you've had an established MMA career going back to 2008 now. So when you look back over your time, both in and out of Bellator, what for you will be the career highlight so far?
Honestly, I think for me, winning the Bellator Heavyweight Championship, it was pretty cool. The way I won it, I didn't really like that. I won because, what was his name? Thiago
Santos.
Yeah, he didn't make weight, so I won the championship that way. I actually told Bellator that I still wanted to fight him, and I think because, actually, I believe the commission didn't allow it. But for me, pretty much my finest moment was fighting Ron Sparks. I had a fractured ankle. I had like 2 rolls of tape on it, and I knew basically that what his weakness was, and I knew I could capitalize on it. And it happened the way I kind of seen it in my head the whole time I was training up to when I damaged my ankle. I want to say the last 4 fights that I've been fighting have been pretty much injured injured pretty bad. So I think this little break that I'm having is a great thing, and I'm going back to the drawing board, definitely working on the issues that I have, like takedown offense. I'm fairly okay on the ground, but I want to get better, like how Josh Barnett is or Alistair Overeem. I've trained with both those guys, and they're phenomenal.
Well, it sounds like you've got good goals and a good plan then going forward. You know where you want to improve your game, and you know the guys that can help you train to improve it, and the guys that you can learn from by examples. So I have a feeling before long we'll see you back. It'll either be in Bellator or on Access TV or, you know, maybe even the UFC if they come calling. Is that a place that you'd like to end up someday in Ultimate Fighting?
Oh, definitely. I would love to. I heard, I don't know if it's true, I don't know if you guys heard it, but they might be making a super heavyweight division in UFC. And I actually cut like 30, 35 pounds to make heavyweight. So I think that would be definitely a good thing for me. Also, the bigger the guys are, the harder they fall. So it would be pretty awesome to fight a, 400-pound man and knock him out. So that would be awesome. And plus the fans, I think at least the first round, they love watching big guys go at it.
Yeah, we see that in every fight promotion. In fact, I was there for the fight in Kansas City when you fought Ron Sparks, and there was definitely a lot of excitement for the heavyweights that night. And anytime I was there for any round of the heavyweight tournament in Kansas City, the crowd was always excited to see the big heavyweight fighters. There's just something special about that because you don't run into guys the size of heavyweights in everyday life, so you know you're seeing something special.
Yeah, I think the fact that at any moment the fight can end, I think that's the exciting part of it. I was boxing, I think it was PAL and Police Athletically. I was fighting this guy. He was really big, real muscular, ripped up, and he was actually really skilled. He was a little bit shorter than me. He was whooping my butt. He had really good movement, fast hands, fast footwork, and it just took, I knocked him out, but it just took, one punch and the fight can end. So I think it's definitely exciting watching heavyweights. But at the same time, some of the smaller weights are so skilled, so fast. It's, for me, I find it more exciting watching them because they're so skilled. I try to learn from them, and actually I try to emulate them, but, it's super hard when you weigh, 290 pounds on fight night and, you cut 30 pounds or whatever to make the weight. So I think if they make super heavyweight, everybody will be watching, I'll definitely be faster and have better cardio than when I had to cut to 265. So I think they'll be, I'll get more fans basically because I'll be able to do more in the cage.
I think you're right, and by all indications, it looks like they're considering super heavyweight. As you said, the rumors out there, the MMA sites and the MMA reporters are all talking about it, discussing it, debating it. So I'll put it out there right now that if they do launch the super heavyweights, then they should come calling you, and they should do it like Ultimate Fighter with super heavyweights and let everybody get in there and mix it up and find out which guys can rise to the top. And I think you'll be right there in that mix.
I think for big guys, the biggest thing is cardio. The bigger you are, man's heart is only so big, and they can only pump so much blood. So our hearts are only a little bit bigger than a guy that's 150 pounds. So, it takes a lot out of you. And I will tell you, I'm definitely working on cardio as much as possible. And if I could get my cardio up like a 135 pounder, I'll be a world champion. And that's what fighting's about, in my opinion, is cardio.
Absolutely.
Obviously other stuff, but that's one of the biggest parts.
Oh yeah, and we've seen that with Cain Velasquez too. I mean, that's the reason he's so successful as UFC heavyweight is because he has more cardio than his opponents. He can go longer, he can go faster. So anybody that has more cardio, that's a huge advantage.
Oh yeah, he's phenomenal. Cain Velasquez is just, I've seen him train and he just seems like he can go 100% for, an hour, and that's amazing. If I did some for 100%, I would be there for 2 minutes and then I'd be gassed. So he's a phenomenal fighter and a great guy as well.
Absolutely. So he's.
I'd like to say,
go ahead.
My friend Josh Burns is getting ready to fight Bobby Lashley in Bellator, and hopefully, I believe he's going to have me corner him if the logistics works. But definitely, everybody watch that. I believe it's going to be on the 5th. I think it is. Anyways, but everybody watch that and give a shout out to Josh Burns.
All right, well, we'll definitely be doing that. We'll watch Josh Burns when he fights in Bellator and he goes against Bobby Lashley. That'll be a tremendous fight. And as long as we're giving plugs out, Eric, why don't you go ahead and give some of your own personal plugs, how people can follow the American Soldier in social media, Twitter, whatever you've got. Go ahead and plug it.
Yeah, I have a website. It's ericprindle.com. Also on Facebook, I believe it's under my name, but what's the other one? Twitter. It's Eric Prindle MMA. If anybody who wants to contact me, sometimes I get bombarded with messages and stuff, but hopefully, I always try to get back to everybody. Sometimes it takes quite a while, but I get back to you. But I really appreciate everything that all the fans support me, and I really do appreciate it. I just want to give a shout out to all my sponsors, and if anybody's heard of Patino Diet, definitely try it out if you're trying to lose some body fat. It's helped me out tremendous. Just being able to make 265, cutting all, a bunch of body fat and keeping muscle at the same time, so it's phenomenal. But if anybody wants to look at all my sponsors, it's on Facebook, I believe. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Eric, thank you very much. It's been a great interview. We enjoyed talking with you. We look forward to seeing you back in a fight again sometime in the near future. And as we said, we'll be watching Josh Burns when you're cornering him. And hopefully the logistics do work out. Continued success to you. And thanks for all the valuable information you shared with our listeners. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Everybody, thank you. God bless, and train hard and train right. Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure, Eric. Thank you, and have a great night.